The basic problem is we've got a poly crisis.
The big problem is that we've got a money system which doesn't work.
We have a crazy system.
Most people don't think about where money comes from.
Hi, my name is Tayer Hewitt. I'm a trustee of Living Economies Educational Trust, a New Zealand organisation devoted to finding better ways of doing money, exchange and community. Most of us never question where money comes from or why the system works the way it does. These four people have spent decades doing exactly that. I asked them two questions. What is the big problem and what is the big solution? What they told me changed the way I see the world.
Everything that's been built up in the past couple of centuries, it's all underpinned by some basic economic assumptions, and those assumptions have some very, very intractable problems baked into them. And one is the notion that things have to always grow, so that the economy is in this perpetual growth state where the amount of resources we have to consume and the amount of sinks that we have to discharge the leftovers or the wastes or the residues are finite. And these two realities don't mesh very well. So if we keep trying to grow the economy in order to have nice things, we run out of raw materials, we run out of safe places, we run out of clean water, clean air, we run out of species diversity, we run out of a safe climate.
Also, we're getting to the stage where we're endangering the planet because it's causing a growth imperative. Growth, says the current government. And every country is wanting growth in order for the system not to collapse, because if it doesn't grow, it collapses.
Most money, about 97% or so, comes into existence when people take out a loan, and you might want $500,000 for a house or something like that. So you go to your bank and they punch some numbers these days, and you know, bingo, you've got 500,000 in your bank, and you owe $500,000.
The problem is that commercial banks create the majority of money in New Zealand. In fact, in every OECD country. Most of it's created by commercial banks, and it's created at interest. So it's created debt with interest, which is a disaster.
So over the years, we pay that 500,000 back to the bank, and it should all be square. But the trouble is, they also want interest. The money that you have to find to pay the interest hasn't been created. It's not there.
So there's always a shortage of money in circulating.
So where does it come from? Because you have to pay it. You can take out a new loan, or you can exploit natural resources and create a profit. But the trouble is, we've been doing that rather too much. And now we're using about 1.5 times the resources of the planet, and that simply can't continue. The other way we can get the interest is to exploit one another, and so we get other people doing stuff for us at a profit.
So the big problem is the banks, and the fact that their interest is just another form of tax, and all that money goes overseas anyway, and it's just quite unnecessary, and it inflates things like buying a house. You end up paying 3 times the price that you originally paid. It's just making money out of money, and when you do that, you're not actually doing anything other than creaming it off other people. I was around, believe it or not, in 1987 when the stock market crashed in New York, and inflation was rampant, and I was paying 22% interest on up to $100,000, which ended up basically resulting in my wife and I separating. We lost our land, also because I had a farm, and it was a depression. and sheep were only worth $5 each instead of today's 150. It was just totally nothing stacked up.
And Bank of England finally admitted that the majority of money was created by private banks. And then it came to New Zealand finally, and our Reserve Bank has an article on its website called Money Creation in New Zealand, where they admit that the vast majority of money in circulation is created by commercial banks. Universities have been very much at fault here in that they have been, lying to their students, and economists teach the media and the politicians wrongly. So that's been going on for decades.
The big solution is to actually wrest the money system out of both the government and the banks, because governments are untrustworthy and so are banks.
How to replace or displace some of the sicker things in the economic paradigm. So that's what Living Economies promotes, are the various ways that we can do money, currency, that we can have exchanges and meet needs and wants, and do these things without the requirement for interest-bearing debt and without the requirement for needless growth. We create things like community currencies. We advise people to do things like set up time bank and, facilitating things like co-housing and land sharing and other sorts of cooperative ventures where the people who are actually doing the mahi, the people who actually have a stake in what an enterprise does, are the owners of it, and the decisions are made at that level instead of by some corporate office that could be halfway around the world.
And so Living Economies looks at complementary systems. We can't do without the big money system. We need that, but we need also a system of exchange that runs alongside it, that doesn't involve interest. So we have time banking, which counts the value of our exchanges in hours, and your hour is worth the same as my hour, and it doesn't matter what we do for one another. And you form a trading circle, and the hours just gets passed from hand to hand to hand as we do things for each other, and it's a wonderful community builder as well. And then we have what's called a LET system, a local exchange trading system, and that system counts the exchanges in each unit is valued at the same as a New Zealand dollar or whichever country you're in. We've got the savings pools now, sometimes called a genuine wealth system, and our savings pools are scattered throughout New Zealand. There's various groups using these interest-free savings and loan groups, and they help each other out with any savings that they can share.
A savings pool that's not a registered cooperative, because the moment you become a legal entity, you are in the grasp of central government. You can say that a savings pool is a family, and it's my family, and nobody can touch that.
And I think that's largely down to this social cohesion in the groups, because we get to know each other and we trust each other and we're very transparent. If we have a member who's suddenly lost their job or some other emergencies come up and they have an illness or whatever, then they can come to the group and say, oops, I'm not going to be able to make my commitment this month, and then there's a discussion. And so we might extend the loan period or have a loan repayment holiday or whatever, but we accommodate the person because, we're there for each other.
We ran a buyers club for organic food when we lived in Taupo. Had 80 people living out of our basement, and all they did was pay $35 the first year, and that became the equity for bulk purchasing, and we could buy and sell meat, alcohol, dairy, where it was up to us and our buyers club, and that worked.
Well, all the complementary currencies, I think, contribute to social cohesion and help us look after the planet, which is in dire need of some help.
You need to basically create your own basket of goods and create a fund of value rather than a fund of legal tender. And if you know that you have so many units of value and you can get whatever you need for that, why do you need anyone else to back it? You don't. And that's how money can be created and has been created. In fact, the Egyptians created money. Fund of value was by the deposit of grain in the silos, and they got recognised for how much they'd put in by a clay tablet that said so and what the date was, and that had a negative interest rate in it. Oh, there's always devaluation because of grain going off or paying the soldiers or the administrators, or that value was always diminishing, so the circulation rate was very high, and that's why Egypt is littered with pyramids and sphinxes and God knows what, and lots of wealth underground still.
Well, there are three solutions. Basically, you've got to get the currency of the country without interest. Secondly, you want an ecology of money, so you don't want just central and tiny. You want central, intermediate, smaller intermediate, and tiny, all overlapping, and like a permaculture system. That we should allow our local councils to create their own money, as long as there's no inflation. So you have to have a separate, independent body like a reserve bank to monitor that.
In order to get a right relation with the earth, a right relation with other people, to hopefully slow down the impacts of climate change and species loss and all these other things, we can begin to reduce the rate of growth and maybe come a little bit closer to a steady state economy. But you have to remove that fundamental imperative that the monetary system provides, which is that somebody's got to pay the interest on all that.
Fixing the money system isn't the only thing we need to do, but it's one that is probably given little attention by those who are working at a raft of very important initiatives. So these things all need to come together. We can't work in silos. We need to connect the dots so that people are working in harmony at various axes. It's like the facets of a diamond.
Yeah, relocalization is a big part of it. At the grassroots level, the encouragement of people to find ways to meet their needs in their, as close to the source as possible.
I just think strengthen what can be strengthened and do what can be done. The issue for the future is going to be relocalization. And when the relocalization happens, you can start with interest-free money creation at a local level and a regional level. And they will have to get their own money system, and they can get a better one.
Living Economies and groups and movements like it around the world are devoted to looking at the economic systems, the monetary and societal underpinnings, that we can create alternatives, we can fix our own little pieces of them.
I think the global economy is teetering. We may just need this parallel exchange system to keep the wheels of commerce turning and to meet one another's needs. I think it's also part of a whole lot of other changes, and this is just a case of thinking a little more creatively and working out ways that are going to work for the people and for the planet, and not necessarily for profit, which seems to be the prime objective of the money system at the moment. Those
solutions always arise when people are open to and need them. They just happen.
Living Economies going since the 2001 maybe, and that had been after the visit of Margaret Kennedy, who had written a book called Interest-Free Money. She came for a long, long time, 3 months I think it was. They toured New Zealand speaking to local groups, meeting the local currency people, and at the end of their trip they put together people, and that's how the Living Economies Trust educational start. And Helen and I were part of that.
This has been my main focus for most of my community life, and it's been very rewarding. I've made amazing friends.
It's, one of the things that's really important right now is to remember that optimism and hope are not necessarily the same thing, and that hope can persist even without a whole lot of optimistic thing happening on the horizon. And I guess that's maybe a bit of an encapsulation of the human condition, is that as people, we're often very stubborn and able to hope, even when a lot of things look pretty bleak. So the reality is that we're always looking for those reasons to, the things to celebrate, the green shoots, the little wins, because we can always build on those.
I think the best thing to do is strengthen what can be strengthened, and be practical on the subject, and don't bust yourself. Just be realistic.
Keep hopeful.
Things that I'm talking about will heal a lot of the solutions, problems that we have.
It can be done. That's right. Recognising the need for it and making some commitment. Because this is not a 9-day wonder. Getting these things going is going to take commitment, energy over the long term.